welcome to Business Today. I'm Siddharth Zarabi and I have another set of budget makers with me, Mr. Tuhin Pandey, the Finance Secretary as well as the Revenue Secretary since recently one of the key linchpins of this budget, and also with me Arunish Chawla, the Secretary of the Department of Public Asset Management. Thank you very much. Mr. Panda, there's a bunch of, Mr. Pandey, a bunch of questions to be thrown at you, but I want to start with that, a big one in terms of the broader philosophy. One, that this budget sticks to the path of fiscal consolidation, even as it has done something for people who opt for the new tax regime. The other is infrastructure play. And the key point that people are asking, has the government shifted away from that infrastructure capex-driven strategy of the last few years to now a consumption-driven strategy, which will have perhaps more immediate results than infrastructure development?
I think this dichotomy and this binary is not in order. One is factually incorrect. In terms of narrative, of course, the tax break and the tax concession has taken the lead, but it is not to say that the capex is ignored. One, if you really look at the capex in last year, we have got two distinct elements there in the capex budget. One is the direct capex, which is government is saying that we are doing it directly through us, that means central government. The second one is indirect capex, which we are saying is we are doing it through states. That means we are giving grants to the states. When we give grants, it is a revenue expenditure for us. So it's not treated as capex, but actually it is capex when it goes into and spent into the economy by the states. So that is what is called a grant in creation of capital assets.
Right.
So for the purpose of economy, both are capex. And that figure is not 11 lakh crore, that was about 15 lakh crore. So there's about 15 lakh crores is there. And when you look at the RE figures, now we are saying that, okay, we are going from 10 to 11.2. It's at about 10% increase over the RE.
Correct.
But actually, if you put it together, and they are both in the very front sheet of the statement. Budget is an annual financial statement.
Correct.
The first statement is there. Those two are juxtaposed. So if you add them two, this is 17% growth over the RE. So it's never to say that 17% growth over RE is any like ignoring the capex. The question is, we had some special problems during the last year in terms of elections, in terms of excessive rains, where some of the projects we did not have really the full year in terms of the capex. And that is not going to be the place this year. So we'll get the full year. So therefore, we'll be much more determined to spend whatever we are doing it. Actual capex is on what you can spend. So if you see, that is still one of the very large amount of money which is going into capex. And not to talk of, what you are again giving as SAC, as a special assistance to the states, as a zero loan, which again go to apex, which is of course counting in this 11 lakh crore. So I will not go that, we are doing this and that. But yes, the income tax relief is actually in a way of putting money into the hands of the people, especially the middle class, to trust them to do all that. And it can go into consumption, it can go also into investment. Let's not forget, investment is of three types. One, household investments. You and me also invest.
Absolutely.
So why are you saying that if I gave money to you, you will only consume? You can also invest. You can also save. So, and the second one is a corporate investment. Third is the government investments. So therefore, to say that giving tax relief the thing, it's only propelling consumption, that's also not correct, because it may lead to more people going for houses, for example, and they may invest in housing, which may also propel. So main thing is that, that's the kind of money which is going back to the people in order for them to do, and it comes back to the economy one way or the other.
I'll come back to you on a growth question, but I turn to Mr. Chawla with regard to disinvestment. Explain the philosophy and especially the number of 47,000 that has been baked in. I was noticing commentary after the announcement and people said, you know, last year the markets were at a pretty decent high. We've seen some turbulence. How is the government confident about this 47,000 crore target, and where do you see it accruing from, if you can sort of share details about this new plan?
Let me first clarify, there's no fixed disinvestment target. What you're talking about is an indicative number for asset monetization as a whole. We don't pursue an asset monetization strategy in isolation. We have a well-defined roadmap for value creation and value optimization. It has 5 elements, namely corporate performance, CapEx policy, communication, consistent dividend policy, and calibrated disinvestment. The idea behind this policy is that we look at value in a comprehensive manner, and we take care of the interest of small investors, the minority stakeholders, who have reposed their faith in us and invested in our public enterprises. As part of this strategy, we optimize between flow of dividends, regular incomes, further investment for the growth of the economy, as Finance Secretary explained,
Yes.
as also maximizing and creating value for the small investors. I can assure you all this is on track.
Okay, quick follow-up. Will the 100% increase, which is good for the insurance sector, in any way, in your mind, impact the valuations of LIC, where there could be a possibility of a FPO once the government decides?
LIC is going strong and it will continue to do so.
I tried my luck on that, but Mr. Pandey, I come back to you, and this is also to do with the longer-term debt to GDP strategy, rather than being just fixed to one particular fixed deficit target. One of the observations is that despite this strong consolidation roadmap and India being amongst the only few economies, or perhaps the only one that has consistently gone on a fiscal consolidation path after COVID, there isn't yet any upgrade by Moody's. Does it disappoint you that ratings agencies don't take into account some of the hard work that is going into fiscal consolidation in India?
Well, I think the rating agencies have their own logic. You should ask them. And I also encourage you to read a paper which the CEA had written, on the rating agencies and their methodologies. But we have conviction in our own belief that we are going to be consolidating our fiscal in a manner which is more consistent with our growth strategy and our aspirations. We have therefore eschewed now, going forward, that a fixed fiscal deficit target year after year. And this has been, many economists and many people have been saying it for a long time, that a fixity of a target sometimes a year, we take away the contingencies that may arise, and the government response is needed in terms of, for example, COVID. In terms of COVID, what will you do? Some of you have crisis. You have to sometimes pump-prime the economy. And in terms of when you are going good, you can actually consolidate it much faster. So why should you bind your hand down? So I think many people have said that, that debt is a better indicator. So having both debt and fiscal deficit together may not be the right strategy. And that was also announced last year in July. FM had announced that we will come out with a going forward roadmap. And what we are saying is that we will bring our debt down as a percentage of GDP. And we have indicated a target of 30-31, 50 plus minus 1. But there are different permutations and combinations possible within that, depending upon the economic situation. So therefore, I think there's a broader roadmap and a certain amount of flexibility, but at the same time, clarity of vision are the hallmarks of this medium-term fiscal management.
Mr. Pandey, I ask you a question in your capacity as the Revenue Secretary. Two parts to it. Will the direct tax code make the old tax regime irrelevant?
Well, so far as present income tax bill also, we have got these two regimes as an option. And we have got, so far as individuals are concerned, 75% of the people have already shifted to the new regime. And we hope that the balance also will gradually shift, particularly the way we have restructured it today. There's every likelihood that everybody will gravitate towards the new scheme. In the bill that we are trying to bring in, it's to do a much larger purpose. For 60 years, we have a law. It has been amended several times. It has gone through various situations. And contextually, the things have changed. So therefore, we want to simplify the law, make the language direct, cut down on this, make interpretations redundant, have more clarity of purpose, both clarity of language and less of litigation. People should be, you and me should be able to understand. Tax administration should understand. We should arrive at a common understanding. This is possible only when the law is reframed and it is written in a language which is direct, concise.
And this is
we
very...
will be having, FMS said, half of the pages, half of the chapters.
Yeah, and this is a very critical point, viewers, because the finance bill also seems to have brought in a retrospective amendment instead of plant or machinery, that or has been replaced with and this is how crucial language is when it comes to this. I turn towards you once again. From a broader understanding, from what I read very quickly with regard to asset monetization, new projects there will be a monetization effort. What is that? Are we referring to some of the massive, large infrastructure projects where the government has invested? What is the plan there, if you could share any updates?
It's a statement of intent. And as I mentioned that we have moved away from fixed disinvestment targets to a broader asset monetization strategy. And that is an expression of intent. And it is part of our overall value creation strategy. And it will help strengthen our public enterprises, our public good providing agencies, and make them an integral part of an asset strategy.
One final point before I let you go, Ms. Pandey, and this is to tell our viewers that with all the measures, what kind of uptick do you expect in GDP growth? Because there's a range that has been put out by the economic survey. What's your own reading as the finance secretary?
Well, I would say that, despite the global headwinds, India remains one of the fastest growing large economy. But we are not happy that, we want to accelerate. So therefore, we need to fire all engines, and FM also announced 4 engines, agriculture, MSME, investments and exports. Within the, context which is not so healthy in terms of, growth, global prospects. And we will do our best in order to push the growth beyond what is and to the maximum which is possible. I mean, we have to not only achieve our potential, but also change our potential through reforms. And therefore, she has used the language reforms as a fuel. So if with optimization of fuel, if Mangalyaan could reach Mangal, so we think that if we do it that right, we will be able to push the economic growth.
That's a good point to end this conversation on. There's so much more to ask the Finance Secretary and the Disinvestment Secretary. But for now, I will thank both of them, because clearly the fine print as it gets absorbed will mean many more questions which we hope to take with them later on as well. Thank you very much, sir, for your time with us today. With that, it's a wrap. We'll continue our programming. Do stay tuned in.
extend a warm welcome to
Finance and Revenue Secretary Shri Tuhin Pandey ji, Secretary Economic Affairs Shri Ajay Seth ji, Secretary Expenditure Dr. Manoj Govil, Secretary DIPAM Dr. Arunish Chawla, Secretary Financial Services